Good morning, Beth-El Tzedek and beyond. I am Cantor Melissa Cohen, joining you from Indianapolis, and we are so glad that you are here with us this morning. It is actually just me here on the bima, here in the chapel, in our beautiful Kaufman-Schuckman chapel, and it is filled with sunlight this morning, and I'm so glad to be here this morning with you for Shabbat. So we will begin our service this morning with our morning blessings, which I will direct you to our website, bez613.org, where you can find all of our Shabbat virtual resources and links to our Siddur Lev Shalem, which looks like this. If you own one in your home, feel free to take that out. We will be using it. Otherwise, you can find the PDF form on the website, as well as other links that have been prepared especially for today with the Haftarah and the Torah readings, especially for later. And we will also be announcing our upcoming month, so there will be a sheet there as well for you, and we'll update that later. So for now, we will begin with our morning blessings on page 103, and you can certainly join me from your homes. You can respond to me with a resounding amen, and I will hear you in my heart. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lasech vivina, lehavchin ben yom uven laila. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shasani betzalmo. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shasani bat chovin. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shasani Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, bokeach ivrim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, malbish abrumim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, matir asurim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, zokef kefufim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, rokah haaretz al hamayim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, mechin mitzadei gaver. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asa li kol tzorki. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, ozer Yisrael bigvura. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, oter Yisrael betifara. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hanoten alai koach. And we continue with Baruch She'amar on page 122. Baruch She'amar v'haya ha'olam baruch hu. Baruch oseh v'reshit, Baruch omer ve'oseh, Baruch ozer u'mekayim. Baruch merachem al haaretz, Baruch merachem al habriyot, Baruch meshalem sachar tov lireav, Baruch chalad v'kayam lanetzach, Baruch podeh u'matzil, Baruch shemo. And we'll continue with one of my favorites, Ashrei, from the Psalms on page 136. If a transliteration is helpful to you, that it can be found on page 181. And for all of my bar and bat mitzvah students out there who are watching along, pay attention so you can study along with me. Ashrei yoshvei ve'techa hod yehalelu chasela. Ashrei ha'am shekachalo, Ashrei ha'am sh'Adonai Elohav, Tehila leDavid, aromimcha Elohai hamelech, v'avercha shimcha leolam va'ed, b'chol yom avarchecha, v'alela shimcha leolam va'ed, gadol Adonai mul almehod, v'li gdulato ein cheker, dor ledor yeshabach ma'asecha, u'gvuratecha yagidu, Hadar kavod hodecha, v'divrei nifleotecha asicha, v'yezus notecha yomedu, ugdulatecha asaprana, zecher avtuvcha yabihu, v'tzitkatcha yaraninu, chanun v'rachum Adonai, erech harpaim ugdol chased, טוב אדוני לכל, ורחמיו על כל מעשיו. יודוך אדוני כל מעשיך, וחסידיך יברכוך. כבוד מלכותך יאמרו, וגבורתך ידברו. להודיע לבני האדם גבורותיו, וכבוד הדר מלכותו. מלכותך מלכות כל עולמים, וממשלתך בכל דור ודור. סומך אדוני לכל הנופלים, וזוקף לכל הכפופים. עיני כל אליך יסברו, ואתה נותן להם את אוכלם בעיתו. פותח את ידיך, ומשביע לכל חי רצון. צדיק אדוני בכל דרכיו, וחסיד בכל מעשיו. קרוב אדוני לכל קוראיו, לכל אשר יקראוהו באמת. רצון יראיו יעשה, ואת שבתם ישמע ויושיעם. שומר אדוני את כל אוהביו, ואת כל הרשעים ישמיד. תהילת אדוני ידבר פיhi, ויברך כל בשר שם קודשו לעולם ועד. ואנחנו נברך יה, מעתה ועד עולם. Hallelujah. Let every breath praise of God. Hallelujah. Praise God. Let every breath be praise of God. Praise God. Hallelujah. Page 141, the concluding verse of Psalm 150. Hallelujah, hallelujah, Vetziltelei Shama. Hallelujah, hallelujah, Vetziltelei Trua. Kol Anshama, Telelia. Hallelujah, hallelujah, Kol Anshama, Telelia. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Now that we have warmed up our souls, we will join together as a minyan from near and far on page 150 as we recite Yotzer, for having created darkness and light, day and night. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, yotzer or uvoreh choshech, oseh shalom uvoreh hakol. We continue on page 154. And kavanah for this section, we are going to be reading in just a little bit a section from Yitro, this week's Parsha, which has to do with the 10 Commandments, the 10 pronouncements, which is more accurate translation, and Moses being on Mount Sinai and receiving the Torah. And it is, is a wonderful display of all of the people together receiving this beautiful gift from God, and that is God's manifestation of God's love for the people Israel. And so in the evening, we recite Ahavat Olam, as we did last evening for Shabbat Eve. And in the morning, we recite Ahava Rabbah, you have loved us deeply, Adonai, our God, and showered us with your boundless compassion. And this is our response in the morning time for this beautiful gift of Torah. So in the evening time, we have this response, Ahavat Olam, and in the morning time, we have this beautiful response, this Ahava Rabbah, this boundless love that we have for God in the receipt of Torah. And we'll express that love as well later when we read verses from Yitro. Read with me on page 154. You have loved us deeply, Adonai, our God, and showered us with boundless compassion. Avinu Malkeinu, for the sake of our ancestors who trusted in you and to whom you taught the laws of life, so may you be gracious to us and instruct us. Kind Creator, have compassion for us. Open our hearts so that we may understand and discern, hear and study, observe, perform, and fulfill all the teachings of your Torah with love. Enlighten our eyes with your Torah. Attach our hearts to your mitzvot. Unify our hearts to love and revere your name so that we never lose hope. As we trust in your great, holy, awe-inspiring name, we will delight and rejoice in your deliverance. וקרבתנו לשמך הגדול סלע באמת, להודות לך ולייחד קרעי אהבה. ברוך אתה אדוני, הבוחר בעמו ישראל באהבה. And we turn and rise on page 155 for the declaration of our faith and the oneness of our true God. 155, the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kol Malchut Le'olam Va'ed. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום לבביך, ושיננת מבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם דעות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך, והיה עם שמות ישמעו שפתיים. ויאמר אדוני אמר שלמה. Then you will remember and fulfill all my mitzvot and be holy before your God. I am Adonai, your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai, your God, truly. Ani Adonai Elohechem emet. And last week we saw in context during the Torah portion, we saw the people of Israel come out of Egypt and see their freedom after many years in bondage in the manifestation of Mi Chamocha, our people's song of freedom, which we sing daily, including on Shabbat, and we will sing it here again, Mi Chamocha. And I love singing Mi Chamocha the week after B'Shalach on Shabbat Yitro, because it really, we are now free people standing at the footsteps of Sinai, getting to sing our freedom song for the first time away from Egypt, and ready to receive these commands, ready to receive Torah from God. We stand together as free people. It's a totally egalitarian experience. God gave this gift of Torah to all the people. And here we stand together and we get to sing Mi Chamocha again as free people. So please join me on page 158, Mi Chamocha. Mi Chamocha Ba'elim Adonai, Mi Kamocha Ne'edar B'Kodesh, Nora Tehilot Osefele, שיר החדש שיבחו גאולים לשמך על שפת הים, יחד כולם הודו והמליכו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. צור ישראל קומה בעזרת ישראל, ופדי חינומך יהודה וישראל. גואלנו אדוני צבאות שמו, קדוש קדוש Yisrael, Baruch Ata Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael. And we will now turn to page 159 for our Shabbat morning Amidah. And we will begin together on page 159 with the opening bracha. and then we will continue on independently ourselves with the words either from the Siddur or the words from your heart. I ask you to rise in body or in spirit as you are able, and I will call your attention as well on page 161 when you begin davening on your own, that you should know that the top section, this familiar section that we have, the Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh section, the holy, holy, holy section, will be read later. It's part of the Haftarah for Yitro. So take special note of that this is that it comes in context this week. So let's join together for the Shabbat morning Amidah on page 159. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Eloi avoteinu ve'imotenu Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah. Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim ve'Konei Hakol, ve'Zocher Chastei Avot v'Imot, Umevi Go'el Livnei V'neihem, Lama'an Shemo be'ahava. Melech Ozer u'Moshiach u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sara. Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai. May the words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable to you, Adonai, our rock, our redeemer. Let's close this moment with Oseh Shalom. Oseh Shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'himru himeru amin. Yahaseh shalom, Yahaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yahaseh shalom, Yahaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. So if you've joined us a little bit later, if you're just joining us now, again, I will invite you to take this opportunity to head to our website, BEZ613, to access your Shabbat virtual resources. There are links there that are especially there for the Torah reading and for the Haftarah reading. Certainly, if you have an Eitz Chaim Chumash at home, I will announce those pages as well for you to follow along, but it might be easier since the reading is abbreviated differently this morning. I have made some sheets for you that will be exactly what we are reading today, and they will be easier to follow along if you are able to open from a different window or a different device from the resources. So I'll invite you to get get to those there now if you haven't already. Otherwise, we will head to page 168. And if you are already still standing, I'll ask you to remain standing, again, in body or in spirit, for Ein Kamocha on page 168. אין כמוך ואלוהים אדוני, ואין כמעשיך מלכותך מלכות כל עולמים, וממשלתך בכל דור ודור. אדוני מלך, אדוני מלך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, אדוני עוז לעמליתים, אדוני יברך את עמו Vashalom. Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah. Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah. Udevar Adonai mirushalayim. Baruch shenatan Torah Torah. Baruch shenatan Torah Torah le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato. On page 171, I will invite you to join with me or respond with me to the Shema as we raise the Torah to prepare for the reading. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo. Gadol Adonai iti, uneromema Shemo yachdav. You may be seated if you are standing, and for this morning we will begin reading in just a moment here sections from Yitro. And as I mentioned earlier, Yitro brings us what is called Aseret HaDibrot, which literally translates to the 10 pronouncements, and more commonly we know these to be translated as the 10 commandments. Aseret HaDibrot translates to the 10 pronouncements, and the way in which they are read traditionally is that they are read exactly into 10 sections, into 10 statements, as they would have been read to us as the people Israel standing at the footsteps of Mount Sinai, as that Moses would have recited them to us. And so there is a special trope that is called the Elyon, Ta'amim Elyon, which is the trope that's on the top. If you notice in a book, in a Chumash, if you're looking at one, I can't remember if they're on the Safaria link or not, you'll notice that there are 2 trope systems. One is on top and one is on the bottom. And the one on the bottom is for studying. It makes sense to read it more like a sentence as a story. But when you are publicly reading this section, it's custom to publicly read them as if you were hearing them yourselves at the foot of Mount Sinai. And so we read them in 10 sections as opposed to in the 14 verses that you see in front of the page. And so there's a special way to do that. So we read the Elyon, the high version. So if you're following along, I will be doing that. And as I am on the bima alone today, I will be using the tikkun. I will have the scroll open, but I'll be using tikkun since I don't have anybody here to make corrections for me. So I want to be sure that I'm reading the words and doing the tropes very correctly and accurately for you today. So that's how we will do it today. I will read the opening section of our triennial reading, beginning if you're using a Chumash, this is in the Eitz Chaim, and you can find this on page 436. And I'll read the very opening section of Exodus 19, verses 1 through 9. And then we will skip to Aseret HaDibrot, the 10 pronouncements. And it is customary to rise, so I'll ask you to rise for that section. And then we'll go ahead and jump just a little bit ahead to the maftir for that section. And so I will call everybody in just a moment up for our joint aliyah. And I will open the scroll. Ya'amdu kol kihilat Beth-El tzedek. We recite the blessings together. Baruch et Adonai hamavorach. Baruch Adonai hamvorach leolam va'ed. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim. Ve'natan lanu et torato. Baruch ata Adonai Noten HaTorah. I'll leave that open. And how would I do this so that it's בחודש השלישי לצאת בני ישראל מארץ מצרים ביום הזה באו מדבר סיני וייסור מרפידים ויבואו מדבר הר סיני ויחנו במדבר ויחן שם ישראל נגד ההר ומשה עלה אל האלוהים ויקרא אליו אדוני מן ההר לאמור כה תאמר לבית יעקב ותגר לבני ישראל אתם ראיתם אשר עשיתי למצרים ועשה אתכם על כנפי נשרים ואביא אתכם אלי ועתה אם שמוע תשמעו בקולי ושמרתם את בריתי והייתם לי סגולה מכל העמים כי לי כל הארץ ואתם תהיו לי ממלכת כהנים וגוי קדוש אלה הדברים אשר תדבר אל בני ישראל ויבואו משה ויקרא לזקני העם וישם לפניהם את כל הדברים האלה אשר ציווהו אדוני ויענו כל העם יחדיו ויאמרו כל אשר דיבר אדוני נעשה וישב משה את דברי העם אל אדוני ויאמר אדוני אל משה הנה אנוכי בא אליך בעד הענן בעבור ישמעם בדברי עמך וגם בך יאמינו לעולם ויגיד משה דברי העם אל אדוני. And I'll ask everyone to stand in body or in spirit, and we will move now to the Aseret HaDibrot. וירא משה אל העם ויאמר עליהם וידבר אלוהים את כל הדברים האלה לאמור אנוכי אדוני אלוהיך אשר הוצאתיך מארץ מצרים מבית עבדים לא יהיה לך אלוהים אחרים על פניי לא תעשה לך פסל וכל תמונה אשר בשמיים ממעל ואשר בארץ מתחת ואשר במים מתחת לארץ לא תשתחווה להם ולא תעובדים כי אנוכי אדוני אלוהיך אלקנה פוקד עוון אבות הבנים על שילשים ועל רבעים לשונאי ועושה חסד לאלפים לאוהבי ולשומרי מצוותיי לא תישא את שם אדוני אלוהיך לשווא כי לא ינקה אדוני את אשר יישא את שמו לשווא זכור את יום השבת לקדשו 6 ימים תעבוד ועשית כל מלאכתך ויום השביעי שבת לאדוני אלוהיך לא תעשה כל מלאכה, אתה ובנך וביתך, עבדך ואמתך ובהמתך וגרך אשר בשברך, כי 6 ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, את הים ואת כל אשר בהם, וינח ביום השביעי. על כן בירך אדוני את יום השבת ויקדשהו, כבד את אביך ואת אמך, למען יברכון ימיך על האדמה אשר אדוני אלוהיך נותן לך. לא תרצח, לא תנאף, לא תגנוב, לא תענה ורעך עד שקר, לא תחמוד בית רעך, לא תחמוד אשת רעך, ועבדו ואמתו ושורו וחמורו וכל אשר לרעך. And now we'll just jump a teensy bit ahead to the maftir, and here it is. ויאמר אדוני אל משה, כה תאמר אל בני ישראל, אתם ראיתם כי מן השמיים דיברתי עמכם, לא תעשון איתי, אלוהי כסף אלוהי זהב, לא תעשו לכם מזבח אדמה, תעשה לי וזבחת עליו את עולותיך ואת שלמך, את צונך ואת בקרך, בכל המקום אשר אזכיר את שמו אבוא אליך וברכתיך, ומזבח אבנים תעשה לי, לא תבנה אתן גזית, כי חרבך הנפת עליך, ותחלליה ולא תעלה במעלות על מזבחי, אשר לא תגלה ערוותך עליו. Now we will do the blessing all together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu torat emet v'chayei olam, natan b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Okay. All right, so we did the Aseret HaDivrot and the reading, and now we will rise to lift and address this Torah scroll. And I will lift it so that you can see the section that contains the Aseret HaDivrot. וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לבני בני ישראל, כי אדוני ביד משה. תורה, 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 ציווה לנו משה. Torah, 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 ציווה לנו משה. Torah, 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 ציווה לנו משה. Torah, 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 ציווה לנו משה. So the Torah is at rest. And you may be as well if you are not already. Which brings us to our Haftarah, and you may locate this also on the virtual resources on our website. If you are using an Eitz Chaim Humash, you may find that on page 452, and we will read just the first 5 verses of this section. And as I mentioned earlier, in context, this is the source for where we get this section of the Kedusha, Kadosh, 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 very famous lines, Adonai Tzvaot. And so I like calling attention usually to those pieces where it references this angelic calling, and it says how the angels would stand together and with their legs, and that it would look as if they were flying. And so it talks about how we should stand, and why is it that on this section when we say V'karazeh el zeh ve'amar kadosh, 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 that there's a way in which we move for this section in Kedusha. And the reference comes from here, because if you read the translation, it talks about how the angels were moving in this moment. And so at that moment during Kedusha, it's our chance to move like the angels, to be like the angels, and to pray in that moment like the angels. So that's that reference and where that comes from. So I encourage you to think about that as kavanah while I chant this brief section of Haftarah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nviim tovim v'ratza v'divreihem hane'amarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai abocher b'torah u'b'moshe avdo u'v'Yisrael amo u'v'nvi'ei ha'emet v'tzedek. Bishnat mot HaMelech Uzziah va'eret Adonai Yoshev al kisei ram v'nisa v'shula meleim et ha'heichal Seraphim omdim mima'alo shesh kenafim le'echad Bishtahim yechaseh fanav, uvishtaim yechaseh raglav, uvishtaim yeofef. Vekara seh el seh ve'amar, kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzevaot, melochol haaretz kevodo. Vayanu amot hasipim mikol hakoreh vehabayit yimale ashan vaomar oili chinidmeti ki ishteme sefatayim anochi uvetoch amtameh sefatayim anochi yoshev ki et hamelech Adonai Tzevaot Ra'u Einai. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Tzor Kol HaOlamim Tzadik Bechol HaDorot Ayel Ne'eman HaOmer Ve'oseh Hamdaber U'Mekayim Shekol Devarav Emet V'Tzedek Ne'eman Atahu Adonai Eloheinu V'ne'emanim Devarecha V'devar echad midvarecha Chor lo yashuv rekam Ki el melech ne'eman V'rachaman Ata Baruch Ata Adonai Ha'el ha'ne'eman Bechol devarav Rachem al Tzion ki beit chayenu V'lauvat nefesh toshia B'merav yameinu Baruch Ata Adonai Misameach Zion bevaneha Samachenu Adonai Eloheinu B'Eliyahu Hanavi Avdecha V'malchut B'David Meshichacha B'mera yavo V'yagel libeinu Al kiso lo yeshev zar V'lo yinchalu od acherim et kavodo Ki v'shem kodshecha nishbata lo Shelo yikbenei ro li'olam va'ed Baruch Ata Adonai Magen David Al haTorah V'al avodah V'al hanavim V'al yom HaShabbat hazeh שנתת לנו אדוני אלוהינו לקדושה ולמנוחה לכבוד ולתפארת על הכל אדוני אלוהינו אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך יתברך שמך בפי כל חי תמיד לעולם ועד ברוך אתה אדוני מקדיש השבת. You can respond to me with an amazing amen from home. And before we put away the Torah and conclude this section, of the service, we will announce the coming month, and you can find these blessings on page 180 in the Siddur. If you would prefer, there is also a PDF on the virtual resources in the same section where the Torah and Haftarah readings are. So please feel free to click on that if you would prefer, and we will go ahead and announce that new month right now. Okay. Yehi ratzon milfanecha Adonai Eloheinu v'Elokei avotenu ve'imotenu shetekadesh alenu et hachodesh haba latova v'livracha. May the new month bring renewal to our lives, a renewal of wonder, a renewal of freedom, a renewal of love, a renewal of justice, a renewal of friendship, a renewal of holiness. And we say together, Amen. Mi she'asa nisim nisim lavotenu, mi she'asa nisim nisim lavotenu, ve'galotam me'aftut lecherut, hu yigalotanu be'karov. Vikabetz nidachenu, vikabetz nidachenu, vikabetz nidachenu, me'ad bakavot haaretz. Chaverim, chaverim, chaverim kol Yisrael. Chaverim, chaverim, chaverim kol Yisrael. Chaverim kol Yisrael. ונאמר אמן. ראש חודש אדר יהיה ביום שישי וביום שבת קודש הבא עלינו ועל כל ישראל לטובה. The new month of Adar will begin on Friday, and Saturday, Shabbat, may it hold blessing for us and for all of the people Israel. יחדשהו הקדוש ברוך הוא עלינו ועל כל ישראל עמך לחיים ולשלום, זה אמן, לששון ולשמחה, אמן, לישועה ונחמה ונאמר אמן. May the Holy One bless this new month of Adar for us and for the entire people, the house of Israel, with life and peace. We say together, Amen. Joy and gladness, Amen. Deliverance and consolation, and we all say together once again, Amen. And so, of course, my musical selections indicate that Purim is coming. And so lots of good things with that. Commanded to be happy in the month of Adar, so we will take the joy and gladness that we just proclaimed in the new month and take that to heart. And we will continue with our service, and we will return the scroll to the Ark on page 183. Yehalelu et Shem Adonai, ki niskav shemo levado. Etz chaim hi lemachazikim ba v'tomachea meushar derachea darchi noam v'chonetivotah Shalom, Ashivinu Adonai, Elecha v'nashuva, Chadesh yameinu, Kedem. Well, I forgot to rise you to to stand you. So I don't know if you are standing or sitting or whatever. You need to go to rabbinical school, I always say, to do the rising and the sitting. So if you're standing, you may sit. If you're sitting, standing, whatever, all body and spirit. Okay, no, you need to stand, or stand in body and spirit. We're going to do Aleinu, page 205. And just a mere canter. Aleinu leshabeach ladon hakol atet gedula leyotzer bereshit shelo asanu kegoye haratzot velo hasamanu kemishpachot ha'adama shelo sam chelkinu kahem vegor aleinu kechol hamonam ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שנוטה שמיים ויוסד ארץ ומשה וכתוב בשמיים ממעל משלמים כזאת ואפס ולטוב יאללה ארץ מתחת אינו דרכינו כבלך אדוני אלוהינו ולראות מהרה בתפילתו ככתוב בתורתך אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד Now you may be seated. We turn our thoughts now to those whom we hold so dear by honoring yard sites and by honoring the memories of those who have died as a result of the pandemic that we face as a nation and as a worldwide community. As a Beth-El Tzedek community, we extend sincere condolences to Elliot Yalis, Ann Glasser, Robert Glasser, and families on the death of their beloved wife, daughter, and sister, Jane Glasser Yalis. We also continue extending condolences for those in Shloshim, the families of Shirley Apperson, Gertrude Siegel-Dock, Michael Battler, Stephen Shore, and Jack Cohen. I invite those who are observing yard site, Shloshim, Shiva, please rise in body and spirit to recite words of sanctification in the Mourner's Kaddish, page 207. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divrach yiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh, b'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehe shmei rabba mevarach leolam ulalmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitale v'yithalal shemei d'kudsha brichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, da'amiran v'yalma v'imru amen. Yehe shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. May the one who creates peace on high bring peace to us and to all Israel and to all who dwell on earth. And we can say together, amen. So thank you for joining me this morning for Shabbat. Just a few announcements. Always activities going on. We're so busy virtually these days. So please check social media and your inbox so that you can see what's going on in the happenings of the congregation. So many wonderful things. And of course, we just announced the new month, so Purim is coming up. So please look out to see what is happening. There's a special event for families, there's a special event for adults. And you can tell your little ones that it is going to be Purim Imposters, which is based on the wildly popular Among Us game. And we will also be having an adult whodunit for our Purim festivities, complete with a Megillah reading, and everything, of course, will be on Zoom, as is the case still right now. And there's just lots of joy going on in the life of the congregation. So we are here for you. Please reach out. Please be with us and join us as always. We will conclude our service with page 200 and with Ein Keloheinu on page 204. Ein Keloheinu, Ein Kadonenu, Ein Kemalkeinu, Ein Kemoshienu, Mi Keloheinu, Mi Kadonenu, Mi Kemalkeinu, Mi Kemoshienu, Nodel Eloheinu, Nodel Adonenu, Nodel Malkeinu, Nodel Moshienu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu, Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu. Shabbat Shalom.